Hey everybody, Prof Sales.
Hi there, Karin here.
Coming at you with another video, and it is January 30th, 2017.
2017.
Almost the end of the month, and we're getting ready to move into February. So here we go. How's everybody doing out there in YouTube land? Hopefully well. We haven't talked to you guys in a few days, so let's turn that down. Such a rookie that I leave the volume on sometimes, right?
Rookie.
But anyway. Oh, and she did it too. We're both rookies. So hopefully you guys can hear us okay. Let us know if you can or cannot. That would be awesome. And how's everybody doing? I mean, it's the end of the month. It's January. It might be cold where you're at. It's kind of cold here today too. But those sales are hot. That sounds so corny and cliche, doesn't it?
Since when did we add that to the agenda?
We didn't. That was dumb. But anyway.
It is almost the end of the month, though. And I was telling Jason that if I had eye black, because I'm in hardcore grind mode, I would have it under my eyes right now.
Right.
So maybe next time you'll see me that way.
Yeah, she was going to go like football player on us. I don't know why, though.
I got my Supergirl shirt on, my pigtails. I mean business people.
She does. She's been on it today. She's just been very energetic and very active and just working. I mean, since we got up, you've just worked.
That's what it takes.
I've watched. She's worked at my
No, well, we have, is this where we talk about that? I mean, we have goal. We had a listing goal. We had a photograph goal. We had a source goal. We had all these goals, and now it's time to hit the pavement, or it's hitting the pavement,
yep.
Or however that phrase goes. And we're like within a grasp of, meeting those goals, and that's pretty cool. It feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, we need. I'm going to look at my spreadsheet here real quickly for the month of January, which is almost done. We just need to list an additional 38 items, so we should get probably most of those done today. If not today, definitely tomorrow.
All of them done. We're going to get all of them done today.
All right, so there we go. We're getting them all done today, she says. So how are you guys doing your goals? If you hit your January listing goals, your sourcing goals, I mean, the sales are important, but the sales are a reflection of those other things, right? I mean, they're not just, it's not like you can just say, oh, I'm just going to make $10,000 this month on eBay. Well, you got to go do things to do that, right? I mean, you can't just say, I'm going to do it. You got to say, well, I'm going to do the things I need to do that will get me to $10,000. And that's how you do it.
You mean we actually have to work at it? We can't just wave a magic wand and say, poof, I will make $10,000 and it will be so? Wow, there's work involved?
Yes, there's work involved.
I'm a little cheeky today, I guess.
Today?
Yeah.
But anyway, so if you haven't hit your goals for January, now is the time to assess.
Yes. Because
February is just 2 days away. And it's a chance. Man, that's a bad place to put that. Gosh, you're driving me nuts.
It's a great cup, though, isn't it?
Yeah. She's like she's literally putting it in between 4 electronics, the cup. And I'm going, liquid and electronics, they don't mix.
They only don't mix if they interact inappropriately.
There's a lot of money right here on this table.
Moving on.
I got to pick on her a little bit. All right. So, but going back to the goals, guys. Okay. So February's on the way, 2 days away. And it's a chance to start again. I mean, there's nothing really magical about 2 days from now, but a lot of people like to think about it in chunks, right? Like we like to think about the month, the week, the year, whatever. So if you haven't met your goals for January, this is the time to reassess and start thinking about, how are you going to get there in February? What are they and how are you going to get there? And it could be a lot of different things. We'll continue to talk about those, but it could be, maybe you need to list a different amount. Maybe you need to source cheaper items. Maybe you need to sell more expensive items. Maybe you need to diversify into other platforms, different categories, all those and many more. So, don't let your lack of hitting your goals in January, if you are short, don't let that get you down, because there's a new month right around the corner and there's a new chance to be successful.
And, we talked about that for those that are playing along, we now moved our weekly Monday meeting to Sunday night because we found that Monday was too late, especially since we have things that we're hitting right out of the gate on Monday. So last night when we were having our meeting, one of the things that we do is it's a rolling agenda. So whatever items we had for last week, we kind of hit them again. And so that we don't discourage each other and that we're constantly building the business and ourselves up, we hit those goals and we'll say, okay, was it met? Was it exceeded? Was it not met? And why? And we actually have a little celebration of our victories, do we not?
Yep.
Because that's important. We can't only harp on and dwell on the things that we've fallen short of.
Right.
And the fact that you didn't, folks, I'm going to just say it this way. Just because you didn't meet a goal does not mean you failed for the month.
Right.
You know, unless you just sat on your butt on the couch and didn't, list a darn thing. But, if you're still working towards that goal, I'd say that's a victory in and of itself.
Yeah. And honestly, you may have done everything you thought necessary for this month to hit your goals, to achieve the results you wanted and not gotten there. And if that's the case, that's not a defeat. That's not a failure. That's just, you need to reassess your approach. Sometimes what you're doing isn't the right course of action. And sometimes you need a little time to figure that out. It's not always clear. We live in such a want it now culture that we think, oh, I'm going to throw up 10 listings and sell 8 of them by next week. Probably not. So, it can happen, of course, but you're not going to just magically turn into this awesome reseller, entrepreneur, business person overnight. It just doesn't work that way. Most people who are successful in business failed numerous times before they got it right. And some of them are smarter than you and work harder than you. So, and smarter and harder and work harder than me. So I don't feel that bad if I fail at something, because I realize it just gives me an opportunity to learn. And, going into the next phase, the next season of my business, I'll be able to make adjustments. So, don't think of it as failure. Just think of it as a learning opportunity, because it really is. It really is. If you think of it as failure, you get down on yourself, and that's not going to help you. Well,
just come here for your daily dose of positivity, because it's only thumbs up here in Prof Math Land.
Prof Math Land. Yeah, I don't know what that means.
We did Prof Geography last week too. That was pretty funny.
We did. Upcoming, I want to talk real quick about an upcoming show. Rakin is having a show on Thursday. I don't know if it's a green room only show or not. I'll have to find out. He did mention that, but I'm not sure. And that's going to be Thursday night at 8 o'clock. So if you're a member of the green room, you have access to those shows, or if it ends up being just on his channel, which I'm not sure yet, check that out. We're going to be talking about 11 things to, how did he put it? Like 11 failures on eBay. And I told him, I said, 11, there's probably 1,100 things you could talk about on that. But, and failures is kind of a rough word, more so just things that are not going to get you, the results you want, not necessarily failures. But anyway, I'm going to be on that show Thursday night. That's on his channel, or maybe even the green room specific channel. I'm not sure yet, but that'll be a lot of fun. So if you're around, check that out. And Steve's always great to talk to. So what else? Let's see. What else we got on the agenda here?
Well, the girls are talking about roller derby, because it's pigtail day. And Yvonne,
roller derby.
At least one person.
Throwing an elbow, right?
Yeah, I don't want to call her out on it, but we've got a friend that apparently used to be a roller derbyer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Tara Taboo. That one right there. Yo, yo, yo. Pigtails and all. So we'll have roller derby Thursday sometime. But anyway, Yvonne, we're not giving out participation ribbons. Not everybody gets a trophy to play here. That's just not how this works. Just agree with me. We'll talk about it later.
It's fine. I 100% agree with whatever you say.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, all right. So let's see. Facebook group's going well. Thank you guys for being members of that. Resellers, Rebels of Reselling. So there's a link to that in the discussion if you still want to become a member of that. We are probably approaching our cap really, really quickly. So we're probably going to cap it for a bit, see how that goes. So lots of great content over there. Lots of people have been sharing their stories, their goals, their challenges, their opportunities. And I don't think we could be much happier with it, could we?
No.
Could you be happier with it?
No. Well, we're getting ready to do some pretty cool things with it. So that's why I don't want to make a big deal out of it right here. But for the folks that are,
I know she didn't want me to put it on the show topic.
I really didn't. But for the folks that are already engaged, I mean, there's going to be a shift to where we make it like it's not just somewhere. I don't think it's somewhere where you just go hang out.
Yes.
We certainly don't commiserate. That word came up once. You know,
Right.
We're not complaining about anything.
Right.
And every day there's something wonderful that happens there. And we're going to amp it up and make it something more than just I don't know. It's going to be, I'm really excited about it. We're having a meeting.
All right. So speaking of challenges, which we weren't, you had a challenge that you could talk about.
Are you talking about the 10% challenge?
Yep.
All right. So, well, your original challenge was, and it's kind of morphed into different things for different people. But my challenge was to pick a number that I needed to make every month.
Right.
And if I could be by myself, independently, full time on eBay, how much money would I need to make to do what I needed to do, save, spend, etc.
Right.
And that number was 6,000. So because I'm not on any path other than the joint path that we have, we decided to take 10% of that, which would be 600. And for me, I've not ever sold anything on my own on eBay. I do it as a partnership with Jason, but never by myself. And we decided there was some value in me going backward and setting up my own account, you know, doing the PayPal relationship and just sort of muddling through like everybody has done here already. And it's been pretty awesome, right?
Yep.
So I got my first things listed, 2 weeks ago?
Probably.
I listed 2 things. Oh, there's that number again, 2 things. And within a week, I sold 50% of my inventory. Yeah, I sold one thing of socks. It was awesome. Stinker hasn't given me a what's it called? What do you call it? Feedback. Yeah. So, so today, and so I'm $15.99. I'm about $10 towards that $600 goal, and I have 2 more weeks. Our cutoff was January 13th to February 13th. February 13th, you had a month to get there. So today, finally, because we've been kind of all over the place with the new system here and how we're buying and organizing and everything, I didn't list anything. So today I listed a whole bunch of more stuff. And
You'll sell it.
Yeah. And then my secret weapon that I didn't tell you about is I've got a couple of things that I'm going to put on local offer up kind of things, either Craigslist or some of the other things, and see what happens there. So.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to do that. So you're going to put some locally?
Yeah, it's cash money, baby.
Cash money, baby.
But yes, because some of the bigger or things like that iPhone, how in the heck am I going to sell that iPhone?
That's a good question. I actually was doing the challenge as well. And it's a little weird because we started right in the middle of the month. We probably should have waited to start one in the month. And now I can't even find it. Huh. Well, that's crappy.
Did you make a different tab for it?
I might have. I did made a couple changes there. Anyway, my goals for the month, guys, just since we're on the topic of goals, was to list, where am I? 339 items minimum was my goal for the month. And I've got about 38 to go. So I'm pretty close. I definitely should be able to knock that out. And the way I've kind of set it up now, it'll be real easy to put in a percentage for the next month for February and just say, hey, take my percentage of my listings I have up, add it to what I'm likely to sell, and that's how many I'll need to list next month. So it'll be no big deal to do it, and it'll just kind of and it keeps track of it automatically. So, you know, that's pretty good. I mean, I'm pretty happy about that. I mean, that's over 10 a day, which is good. I would say that we definitely could do more. And with the way we started sourcing kind of about in the middle of the month or so, I think we'll be able to do more. So a couple other things I want to share with you guys too that I learned from the that was funny. Just got like a weird message that I am seeing over the last month, I'm also tracking, guys, you know, how much I'm selling things for, because I think that's important. This question came up in the chat. Well, not in the chat, in the comments. Somebody was talking about, why do you care about how much you're paying for something versus something else that's close in value? Basically, cost of goods. I mean,
It doesn't matter. Just sell it. Who cares what you sell it for or how much you had to pay to, just who cares?
questions don't bother me. Questions don't bother me. Mindsets do. And if your mindset is that you want to be in business for yourself, whatever that looks like, part-time, full-time, whatever, and you don't care about the profitability of what you're selling, you're not really ever going to succeed as a business person. It's going to be so difficult for you, because any company that sells a product or a service has to consider the cost to develop, implement, manufacture, acquire that product or service, because that's kind of the starting point for whether or not you're going to make any money. And if you're not going to make any money, great. You're just in business to break even. Awesome. Congratulations. You can do that. But I don't think that really is something I would ever be interested in doing. And I made the point that the bigger companies in the world that sell products, especially physical products like so many of us do, they all track the cost of what it costs for them to get something. Cost of goods. It's an inventory asset first, then when you sell it, it becomes a cost of goods. I mean, that is just so basic economics 101 and business. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, guys, I mean, if you don't know what you're paying for things, how in the world do you know if you're making any money? You don't. You're taking a wild guess at it. You're looking at your bank account and you're saying, oh, well, I've got more or less than last month, which may or may not mean anything, believe it or not. So I don't know. I mean, for me, I cannot run a business where I'm not figuring out exactly how much I'm making. And by the way, when you go to do your taxes, you're going to need to put in there how much it cost you for the items that you sold, because that's an expense of your business. You really don't want to guess at that number. There are ways to average your cost over all your items. You can do that. It's not ideal, but you can. But you still have to keep track of it, guys. I mean, that's just like so basic that I don't know. It just, you know, and trust me, I'm not upset with anyone or anything like that. It's just one of those things where I just don't understand people's mindset sometimes around certain basic business topics. That's kind of like saying, I don't care how much I sell things for.
Give it away now.
Right. So anyway, but I've been tracking for January, and I'm netting about $9.35 an item, basically, which is for clothing, which is lower than I want to be at. So I'm doing some things to bring that number up. So, you know, I look at it this way. If you want to make more profit per item, there's really two ways to do it. Charge more for the item if you can, or pay less for it. And of course, you can do a combination of both. So we're actually trying to focus on both for the coming months to reduce our cost to buy things. That ties in with the bin strategy largely. And also, I'm testing the higher parts of the market with some of my items. Like I'm going in and looking at solds and completeds and so on and looking at that pricing. And I'm trying to see if I can capture maybe that top 20% for that particular item. Maybe not the top sale, but somewhere within 20% of the top sale. And just seeing if I can capture a bit higher price for my items, because that's going to put more money in my pocket. It's the same amount of time to list it, same amount of time to acquire it. So why not get another 10%, 15, 20% out of it if I can? So anyway, I just want to share that all with you. Let's see. What were you going to say something? I feel like you were.
I said give it away now.
Yeah,
that was enough. That was my
chili peppers.
Lyrical contribution to that rant. But that's not even the topic of the show today.
Nope, it's not. The show topic is, don't look at that topic.
5 ways to sell anything online. And this was my idea, and it's been kind of eating at me for a while now, because I've found that we get asked a lot about pictures. We get asked a lot about listings. We get asked about, and there are a handful of common threads no matter what you're selling. Whether you're selling the iPhone on Craigslist, or you're selling jeans on eBay, or you're selling, fancy shoes on Posh or something like that. There are certain things that I think are universal.
Yep.
And I don't even want to say if you master them, but if you pay attention to the detail of them, I think that they universally could make a huge difference. And we get this all the time where, well, let's just jump into it. I made a list on how to sell 5 ways to sell anything online. The first thing is your title. And pretty much across the board, your title is how someone's going to find you when they do a search for your item. So, and this is I'm going to put this out there, and it's not to say you do it or whatever, but it's kind of speaks to, you would be surprised to know that people put up titles and they misspell it. And a lot of times they misspell it by accident. It's not on purpose. Sometimes maybe it's to get attention. But if you misspell Levi's and somebody's searching for Levi's, guess what? They're never going to see your listing.
It's going to be much more difficult.
And sure enough, I was going through something the other day and I saw Levi's spelled Leivi or something. Doesn't exist, right?
Right.
So useless listing, no offense if it's yours, but seriously, autocorrect should help you there, but make sure you've spelled it right. Make sure your title, and we discourage people from putting in anything fluffy in the title because that's not how, there's a couple of exceptions maybe, but it's just not how people search for something. Right. If I want to reproduce this t-shirt, I love it and I can't buy it anymore, I'm going to enter, whoever makes it, what size it is, Supergirl, whatever. And that's what's going to make me find it. So your title is really, really important. Be specific, spell it right. Different platforms are going to require different as far as punctuation. We just talked about today about putting a hyphen or a possessive in the title for some things. And on some platforms it's good, sometimes it's not. But your title is very important because that's the window into your
soul.
Yes, window into your soul. But I think that's the first step. So make sure you spell it right and that it's specific and then it gets you there. And again, anything online you can sell if your title is good. The next thing is the description of the item. It's really important no matter what it is. Maybe you're selling your uncle's boat or your car or your glasses or whatever. Describe it, but here's the important thing. Be accurate because you're going to get hit if you're not. And especially on eBay, we can speak for the INADs. See, I'm already talking the talk. If something is not as described. So guess what? It's one thing to put that it's blue and the real color is red, right? That's just totally off. But if it had a white spot on the collar or something,
right,
and you didn't write that down, guess what? It's not as you described it. I understand that it wasn't there, but sometimes it's what's not there. And I'm not suggesting that you overdo it, right? But it all goes together. So when you're describing something, be accurate and thorough.
Yep.
Right? So that's number 2. Call it what it is, describe it accurately. And then photos. This one is a biggie. And I'm the photo taker in this here operation. Oh, there, I did an accent. Oh boy, it's a
pirate.
Oh.
Pirate comes out.
So photos. This is important because you're putting out into the universe what you want to sell, right? And there are some platforms I get where maybe you won't put a photograph up. Wouldn't be me because it's an attention getter. I can't tell you how many times I've gone on Craigslist to look for something and I skip, I don't know about you, but if there's not a photo.
Don't even look at the listing.
I don't even look at the listing. Exactly. And sometimes, we joke about how I put up 12, the first thing I sold, I put up 12 photos of a pack of socks. And I get it. I get it's too much.
Here's
whatever.
The sock opening. This is where your calves go.
That was very funny. Did you really just say where your calves go?
Wow.
So anyway, it's better to have too much than not enough. And when you're taking your pictures, this is the one that amazes me. When you're taking your pictures, take good ones. Pay attention to detail. Like, it still amazes me that there are things, everything is going to sell, right? We get that. It amazes me, though, that some things sell based on how they were put out into the universe.
Right.
And it makes me wonder if they would have sold for more if they had been presented better. And that, that's a whole other conversation. We can talk about life and people and ad campaigns and all that. But photography is important. And the way pay attention to that. I think it makes a difference. I think they should be clear. I think the color should be accurate. I think they should be centered. I think they should be cropped correctly. I mean, there's a whole list of things, and I'm happy to help people that have questions with photography in particular.
Yeah.
But it's an art as much as it is a science, and it takes practice. So when you're putting up pictures, and I don't want to spend the most amount of time on this, but it is important.
Oh yeah.
Just
Especially
put up good ones. I mean,
Yeah, and I would say too on that, guys, be cautious with your photos, because a lot of us use our smartphones and so on to take photos, and there's autofocus, right? It automatically focuses in, but sometimes it still doesn't get it. And if you're looking at that photo really small, when you're going back to, import those photos to your listing, you may not catch that it's out of focus, which isn't a big deal on some items. But if there's writing in your focus, like a tag or a description of something, or just even details, when people can't see it as easily, I mean, put yourself in their place, and you'll talk about that in a moment. But if you can't see what's going on with the item, you're going to be a little less likely to buy it because you're just not sure exactly what it is. So always think about the focus, even if you're using something that autofocuses, because sometimes it doesn't get it right.
And, we can chart what is purchased, where people will click on something and buy it. But the one metric that we can't get is sales that you lose because your picture sucked, or your title was inaccurate,
you never know,
or your description wasn't spot on, right? So you're not going to know. So I guess the mom in me would tell you, just do your best the first time, right?
Yeah.
Just don't. And when we were putting together this list, and I won't do it because I'm not a cursor, but at least online I'm not. Talk like a truck driver every other day. But you don't want to do it halfway, was my point, because it'll show. And then the last, or actually number 4, what I use when I buy something online in particular, and I put this back to everybody that I help with taking better pictures, would you buy it yourself? Based on the title, the description, the photos, and everything that you've put up on that listing, would you buy it? And I'm amazed at, when I ask people to reassess their own work, how many times it comes back, no. Based on that, no. Well, then let's do it right the first time. So when you look at all of those things, do it better. Do it as good as you can the first time around. And I think it's a great meter, a great comparer to say to yourself, would you buy it based on what you've put up there?
Yep.
And if, I'm just amazed at how many people say no. And finally,
this is going to answer somebody's question.
Is it?
Because K&B asked, how much cheaper should I be than the top sellers? Which I think is maybe not the right question to ask, but go ahead.
Oh, so when you're going to post how much, you're going to put up how much you're going to list it for, the very biggest thing is to look at comps or comparisons or things that have already sold that are as similar to exactly like what you're wanting to sell. And granted, sometimes you're not going to find your item. So that's a whole nother story. But one of the things that people get, I think, hooked into, unfortunately, too easily when they're deciding to sell something is they'll put in this pair of, for lack of better, Nike shoes, Nike tennis shoes or whatever. And they put in Nike hot air balloons, whatever. I don't know, they don't exist, but we'll use that for our example. So the Nike HBs, right? So you look them up and they're priced like, oh my gosh, $100. And you're like, ooh, I'm onto something here. I should buy them. Well, that's what other people think they're worth and that they're currently for sale for. What you need to do is go into the filters for eBay or whatever, and find your comps, find what has actually sold. And it's a choice on the eBay app or eBay platform where you choose, and just don't choose one, choose both. It's sold and completed sales. And that gives you an accurate start to what you should price your item at. And then another thing is if it's a used item, you need to put that it's
of course,
it's previously owned or whatever. But does that help that person?
Well, I think the other thing to consider is too, guys, price should be an issue when you buy the item. Because if you're not thinking about what it's going to sell for, what it's likely to sell for, then you can't really make a good buying decision when you get the item. Because that should factor into that decision. If you're buying something for $10 and it's likely to only sell for 14, that's probably not worth your time and money to sell, because you're not really going to make hardly anything on that by the time fees are gone and taxes and all that good things. So people are talking about the pricing issue because I think pricing trips up people more than anything. Mm-hmm. And I got to tell you guys, pricing is not an exact science, because the reality is, and I know this is such a cliche, but if you think about it, it's true, because everybody wants to know, hey, I got this whatever, this widget, this item, how much should I sell it for? Well, that question is premised on how much is it worth? Another question. And that question can be answered by it's worth what someone will pay for it. I mean, there's no manual anywhere that says you have to sell this item for this amount. What you can do is look at what's happened in the recent past and make some educated guesses about what it might sell for. But when I go through certain jean brands, when I'm listing, I find a lot of them clustered, probably 80% of them clustered around a number, and within probably 25, 30% of that number, that average. And then there's some outliers at the top and there's some outliers at the bottom. So my thinking is this, guys, for the most part, unless you really have great processes to go in and burn and turn tremendous amounts of items very quickly and to turn that capital back around to new items and get those listed again, which most of us don't have that. Most of us don't have a team, an assembly line, and a warehouse area and a great setup and plenty of room for inventory, or the ability to source as much, and
I'm just looking around at our space.
I know, we're looking around. I was going to say that I would say when you start out, price higher. Look at those top few listings. Maybe drop your price 20, 25% below those and price up there. Because here's the other thing, guys. Pricing is all perception. It's all perception. There's no reason. If you look at functionality, there's no reason why one car should be better priced higher than another car in terms of if they enable you to move from point A to point B in a fairly rapid fashion. That's what cars can do. But we assign all this value to them based on perception, based on, oh, well, we need automatic windows and automatic doors and air conditioning and heat, and we need leather seats, and we need, oh, and wait, it says BMW on it, so that's worth even more because of that name. Clothing especially is no different, and lots of things on eBay are no different. There are things that are sort of very clustered around a very specific price, but clothing is really tricky because a different size in the same brand could sell for 25, 30, even sometimes as much as 50% more. And it's the same brand, but it's an unusual size or it has an unusual embellishment on it. Mm-hmm. So I say price high. Price high, and you can always drop it. You can always take a best offer. You can always put that option on and say, hey, I want to do best offer. And if somebody gives you an offer you want, take it. But I'm a believer now in just pricing a bit higher and just seeing where that market will top out for you. Anyway.
So unrelated, Megan asked about a hoodie. So let's make it make sense to what we just talked about. So you've got this hoodie, Megan, and you don't have a mannequin. And we're talking about how to best photograph it. Mm-hmm. You've got to use what you've got, right? Some people do a flat lay in that instance, which just means you're going to lay it out flat and take a photo from up above. And it just so happens that I had a swooty. That's what we're going to call it, right? A swooty, a sweater hoodie that we just, he doesn't have his key.
Oh, he doesn't? I get
So
it.
we have this, someone's at the door. Oh, I've taken over the show. Dun, 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 dun. So we have this swooty, and I've seen the light. It's a sweater hoodie that we do have like a half mannequin, and you can kind of see that's Boris and Natasha in the background. And we, I took pictures of this swooty yesterday, and I just wanted to show for Megan's benefit what you can do if you don't have a mannequin or way to hang it up. And I get a little creative sometimes, and I was just tickled with how this one turned out. But there's the swooty, right? That's the swooty on the half mannequin. And then I'll just kind of go through. Maybe it's not doing what I wanted to do, so hold on. So there we can show the back of the swooty. But the cool picture that I wanted to share with Megan is that that's a flat lay, and this is really not going to do it justice showing it to you this way. But I basically fold it, square it up, and full on put that hoodie up in the air. So there goes, oh, stupid sunshine. Anyway, oh wait, I won't move. I won't even breathe. So that's it right there, yeah? And then the final picture is just another where we've squared it off. It's a crummy picture. But just be creative and just, what would you like? What would work for you in getting your attention? And sometimes I'll do funny things with the arms. I'll put them over the head, or I'll do this or that, or put them inside the pockets. But there's different things that you can do to draw attention to it. And with a hoodie in particular, just, put it up, around, to the side, all different things you can get there. And now I'm by myself for some reason. So what do you want to talk about? Any questions? Hi, Chris. So I have not been keeping up with the questions. So in case that last question is one that has already been answered or is part of another stream, we will let that go. So to recap, 5 ways to sell anything online: accurate title, thorough description, awesome photos, would you buy it yourself, and compare your comps. There you go. I just recapped it. Well, you left me hanging, but I was able to show the picture in a couple of seconds. There was like a moment of clarity there.
There's that focus issue again, right?
Yeah.
Even for that. Hey guys, 100 people watching. Awesome. Man, I was refreshing it. So
that's very cool.
Thank you guys for that. We appreciate you guys coming on with us today on a Monday afternoon. Karen, what do you think they should do if they like the content they're hearing?
Smash that like button. Just smash it.
Oh my gosh. Somebody asked you if you got the iPhone 7 Plus. You already answered that.
I did not. We all have successes. We have successes. No, 6S. And that won't even look right on there. But next time around, we will get a better. I mean, we're having really good luck when you're taking pictures with and you touched on it with the mobile phone. If you're taking pictures with your phone and then uploading those, recenter that focal point. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things that frustrates me is a lot of people that do like a full length shot using a phone, and you can tell a difference between an SLR and a phone picture, once you know what to look for. But on those full length shots, they are not in focus. So to me, they're useless. So if you're doing that, I mean no offense when I say this, but just because it's sort of out there right. Doesn't mean, because here's the thing. Let's say that, and I think maybe this is why some people do it that way, but maybe there is a bleach mark on one leg or something. From such a distance, it's not going to be in focus. So I'm afraid to do that because I'm going to get an item not as described. I could potentially get a return because, and I get this from the seller's perspective. Well, I showed the whole thing front and back. You did, but you didn't. If your picture is not in focus, I would beg to differ. I really would. So we're not going to, and sometimes we have some that are a little focus challenged, But we're just not willing to put something out there that'll jeopardize our seller rating. We're just not. So
right. You always want to be able to accurately and completely describe your item, just from a standpoint of just good customer service. We're getting like a weird glare there all of a sudden.
the door's open.
Oh.
Ah! That's pretty funny.
Did I take it away?
No,
Oh, okay. I'm going to take that away. Yeah, that's really
it's
weird.
very like angelic. Look at that.
Is it gone now?
No.
I don't think it's the door.
Okay.
I think it's coming from somewhere else. So
Oh, that's worse. Okay. Okay.
that's no good either. Ah,
okay,
there we go.
moves it like this.
Well, you can tilt it up a little bit. Sorry about sorry about the light. Got really weird there for a moment. It's that weird time of year in the winter when the sun's just lower in the sky, so it creates havoc. All right, so let's talk about. We've already talked about end of month, but I'm going to tie that in with kind of the spreadsheet and so on. So we'll share that for a moment. So let me pull that up, and I'll just kind of show you where we're at with our jean sales. Kind of interesting. Let's see here. And we will do a screen share. Sharing the screen.
You didn't update the photos, I see.
I have not updated the photos in forever. Karen has been taking photos. Please do not see all these days of zeros and think she took no photos. She's been taking tons of photos.
Well, I mean, it stands to reason that if you're listing it, you're
Obviously,
not photographing it.
Obviously,
so there's that.
right. Exactly.
We might even get rid of that column because somebody asked us the other day why we even do it. And it's not really, it's just for our own records.
Mm-hmm.
For when I send Jason his bill at the end of the month. No,
Right.
no. But
That's true.
but it's not like a metric that we need percentages on. So don't misunderstand that. That's just a personal thing there.
Yeah, and guys, this is kind of like we've started listing so many other items too that are not jeans that this is becoming less and less meaningful. This part of the tracking, because we're not listing as many jeans now. I'd say we're listing maybe 70%, maybe even 60% of the jeans we were listing. Now we're listing other items that we're finding at the bins. We're listing tops. We're listing other bottoms, shorts, skirts, coats, sweaters. So this is becoming less and less meaningful, but I did start the whole challenge out tracking it. We've sold 35K in jeans since we started back in July, which is pretty good, I think. Our sell-through percentage is around 0.82. So a little below 1, and that might track back up a little. We'll see how it goes, and then drop back for the summer. There's some indication that it might. Let's see, jeans by month. 44 in jeans this month, which is about 5.9 a day. So decent results. Nothing massive. About 1855 net. And let's see. Yeah, so still around that 42% net margin, which is pretty good. And the jean total is pretty good as well. I also still have the 100 listings. We're still at 60 of those sold, guys. That was 75 days ago that we did those 100 listings. So I've sold 60 of them, and 40 of them are still here, which is a 0.8% a day, which I think is interesting. I was thinking about that today. It's like, man, there's just no way to really track your real sell-through and have it be very meaningful. You'd have to track, if you had all of eBay's numbers, you would know on certain items, then you could go into categories, but to do it for yourself, you just don't have enough numbers to really make a statistical guess at certain parts of this. So, don't get too caught up in it. Just do what you can do on that. Try to keep your sell-through moving forward. Let's see here. I'm going to end this.
Ended.
All right.
There we are.
And I think I mentioned you guys what we're going to do for February. I just like saying it that way. February, right? It's spelled weird. Who came up with that spelling?
Weird is spelled weird, if you think about it.
That's true.
You were saying?
Anyway, so for February, I think I mentioned this earlier in the show, but we're going to take what our listing total will be on You can do this at home if you want. It's an easy way to do it. You can do it with as many listings as you have. It doesn't really matter. We're going to take how many listings we have on February 1st, first day of the month. And I'm going to take that number and find 10% of it. So that's really easy. Just move the decimal place over a spot. I'm going to add that total to how many I sold this previous month. And that will be my listing goal for February. That'll be the minimum we want to hit. So, you know, if you sold 10 items last month, you're well, let's say 100. You sold 100 items last month, and so 10% is 10. And you're at 100 items listed, so that's 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. So your listing goal for this month will be 20. If you do that each month, the math works out that you will actually double your listings on eBay. If you can continue that, you actually, and if you don't sell through a massive amount more than you did the month before, you will actually double the amount of listings you have on eBay in about 8 months. It's not a year. It's actually about 8 months. So that's a pretty quick way to double your listings. I've talked about that in a previous video. It's not that hard to do.
Did you say that right? Just go back, because you said that they had to list 20 things. So for the person that caught that and said, we only have to list 20, finish the example like we talked about last night. So if they had 100, then what?
If they started the month with 100 listings.
Right.
Okay. 10% of that is 10. And let's say the month before you sold only 10. So we're going to assume you're going to sell at least 10 this month as well, just to make an assumption that it's probably going to be high or low, obviously. But 10 plus 10 is 20. So you need to list 20 items this month to gain an additional 10 listings. That's a good place to start. It's not perfect. If your sell-through increases dramatically, then you're not going to hit that number. If your sell-through drops, you're going to hit that number early in the month, which is you know, a different problem. Kelly asked, what about multi-quantity listings? Math makes my head hurt.
Mine too.
Yeah, I think in that case, Kelly, that's up to you. I mean, you could count each of those quantity on that listing as a listing if you wanted, because it technically is another item for sale. It's just you're not having to do a whole nother listing. So if you've got 5 items and they've each got a quantity of 10, that's 50. I know it's only 5 listings, but you've actually got 50 items listed. So count that if you want. I mean, that's up to you. Or you could count it just as one listing. Totally up to you on that one. I don't think it's a big difference either way. Let's see.
If you guys have any questions, since
we forgot about that.
It's rolling by pretty quick. Just go question mark, or type the word question in all caps, and we'll try to grab it. But now's the time for that. We'd be happy to answer anything on or off topic. But that's a good heads up for us that it's in the live chat, and we won't let it.
And Kelly says, hey, I have some with over 100 quantity. Well, imagine, Kelly, if you listed 10 more items that each had 100 quantity. You've now effectively put 1,000 more items for sale. There's some math.
Yeah.
And that's pretty easy to think about. So that would be pretty simple to do. You don't have to put up 10 more listings. Now, I know you may not be able to get access to another 1,000 items. That's a whole other story.
Kelly's magic.
What's that?
Kelly's magic. She sells something year round and a lot of it. So I think you can do it. 10 times 100.
Sure. Catherine asks about lighting.
Okay. What about lighting? What does it say?
Question mark, question mark, question mark.
Oh, what about it? It's important. You need it. I don't mean it like that, but it takes some experimenting. You know, we use the soft boxes, the light boxes behind us with full spectrum or daylight bulbs. That's critical to making the light balance out. That being said, we also have a lot of blinds, and we have, what are those bulbs called up there? Fluorescence or iridescent or regular standard light bulbs. Try not to mix lights. Right. Because that messes it up too. And, you know, you can kind of play with the white balance on your own phone. Because somebody asked a question about having a 7 and then the 6 and everything. center the focus and just play with it a little bit. You can also buy really cheap shop lights, and I know that Tiffany and James use those, and they work really well for them. But it's just like a long strip shop light that actually has a hook on one end.
Right.
They're really cheap, and you can buy those and put them on either side.
Right.
You can, how much do you want me to go on about lighting? We can have a white. We use white foam boards. You really can't see it, but it's just this thing that you picked up, and it acts as a reflector, just a reflector, and that helps bring the light back or shoot it off in another direction. But lighting is something that is a challenge. It is the bane of just about everybody's existence, and you have to play with it. You have to experiment, and hopefully those things are helpful. The things that have hurt us is that when we don't have the bright lights on them, the color is not accurate. When the lights mix, like when we've got sunlight coming, if you can shoot with just sunlight and it's just at this perfect angle and it's reflected here, okay, that would work.
But then it moves.
But then the sun moves. And so you're not always going to have that perfect sunrise moment. So you have to kind of play with it. And what if you're taking pictures at night, which a lot of people do when they get off of their regular full-time job? So you just have to play with it, and don't get yourself stuck into thinking it has to be this way. Get creative.
And I would say too, when you were mentioning about the different bulbs, if you're ever in Lowe's or Home Depot and you're in the paint section, they sometimes will have set up there a little lighting area where you can look at different paint chips under 3 different lights, under fluorescent, incandescent, and sunlight. And you will see that the same shade of paint will change dramatically under those 3 lights. So that's another reason why probably not a great idea to be mixing your lights when you're trying to shoot clothing, because it's going to play havoc with the actual color the item comes out. Just make it consistent from shot to shot. That's important. You want it to look good, but you also want it to look consistent. If it looks one color in the first shot and a totally different in the second one, your customer's confused. They don't know what they're buying. And they're not going to tell you most of the time. They're just going to move on to the next listing. So,
all right. So KMB Golf wants to know about trying to get into women's tops, but have no clue what to look for. Again, research comps on eBay. It's really easy to do.
And you know what else to research? And let me just add one thing to that. Research the total number of listings by brand. And I know this is probably counterintuitive, but when you go on eBay and you see the brand list, like if you just type in women's tops and then you can pop up a search and see by brand, you're going to see tons of brands. And it's going to tell you, when you do this on a laptop or PC, how many each brand has listed wise. The more popular brands indicates there's a market. Don't be afraid of that. I mean, there's niche brands to learn too. But when I started doing a lot of jean research, Levi's was number 1. It was number 1 by a good margin. And that's because there's a big market for it. So I would be silly to say, well, I'm not going to sell that because there's too much competition. Nonsense. You just got to make yourself look really good compared to the competition, and you'll be able to sell. So look for brands that there's a lot of listings of them on there. Now, you may not be able to get the items cheap enough given some of the average selling prices. That's another question. But I always start with some of the more popular ones, believe it or not, and you'll niche down and learn, additional brands as you go.
Jada Kid says, how do you feel about buying uninspected returns from wholesale sites like bulk.com? It's a gamble. It's a crapshoot. We pretty much agree that about 10% of if that much of what's going to be on that big pallet or in that big truck is going to be worthwhile. On those returns, Jada, it's tricky because a lot of them are damaged. A lot of them, well, I won't say a lot, but there's the occasional Keurig machine, and you know who I'm talking to when I use this example, where it's not even the same Keurig machine that should be in it, right? People buy something and then return the wrong thing to get their money back, right?
And if you pick it up in the store and it's damaged or defective or it's got a spot on it, guess what? You can put it back. But once you bought the pallet, you're stuck with it. So you're not going to be able to return it. You're just going to have to donate it back and deal with it. It's a trade-off in time there. I mean, yes, you can get a lot of items all at once, but it's it's tricky to get the quality you want, and you have to be able to process all those items too at once, in a pretty short time for it to make sense, because the longer you set on it, the more you're tying up your capital, even if you got a good price on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't really done too much of it. Not saying we won't ever, but it's definitely not something to go into lightly. It's definitely something you want to, maybe take a small risk with.
Yeah.
But, we were talking to our friends about them buying a tractor trailer load. It was thousands and thousands of dollars. It was not a small amount of capital. And,
for maybe 10% of them, and they'd
Yeah.
have to be worth it. So is it out of the question? No, but I'm with you. Take a smaller gamble just to get your feet wet.
Right.
And I'm with Lauren. Unless you are a photographer by nature and you know about f-stops and different settings on your camera, even the point and shoots, the flash will a lot of times wash out the color of an item.
Yeah.
So if you can stay away from an external or additional flash coming from the camera, you're going to be better off.
Because think about it, you can't control the light in that moment, and you're gonna have to take some shots with it before you realize it. And if you're not holding the camera in the same spot every time, and touching the flash usually means you move the camera a little, even if it's just a little. I mean, it's just introducing another variable that you probably don't need. You're better off just having stationary light to where you can move the camera to where you can see where the shot looks good and then take the photo. The flash always puts a little bit of unpredictability in there, I think.
I don't understand the peel and stick question. What do you call it?
I'm not sure. Purple Lily says, Karen, we're going to see an update or on your process for your personal goal, or is the new women's merchandise you're now buying part of the new endeavor?
Well, we did talk about my goal earlier in this show, and then we'll talk about it some more, and we'll definitely put it on the Facebook group because I've got some ideas about that moving forward.
Right.
So.
Right. Do returns hurt your eBay rating?
Only if you don't screw them up.
No, I mean, if you're getting complaints about items not as described and things like that, or you're not able to ship things out, I mean, eBay can do whatever they want, obviously, but per se, I've never heard anybody say that that hurts your rating. I suppose it could if you had too many of them. Sure, it's like anything else, but I don't know what that number is. Maybe somebody else can speak to that, because I am definitely not an expert on that part of the equation. So if somebody's got more insight on that, feel free to share it in the chat. Kelly says, I just turn on whatever lights in the shot show different colors. Yeah, light is, you got to get it right, guys, if you're going to take good photos. And I'm around some people every weekend when I volunteer who are trained in lighting, and these people are experts. And I can tell you, even these experts struggle to get it right all the time, because it's tough. And light changes so much, especially when you're dealing with natural light and it's coming in at different angles into a building. It can really play havoc with your camera shot. So, don't beat yourself up over it too much, but just try to make a consistent lighting situation, and you'll get pretty good. You'll learn how to get good results eventually. So,
and a flash does another thing. Yeah, that's called a hotspot, Kelly, and you can get them with the box lights as well. And it just means it's like a brighter than other spot in your picture.
Right.
And that's why we talk about bouncing the light. So it's sort of indirect light that's bouncing off of something to reflect it back onto the image that you're taking a picture of. And that you shouldn't have hot spots when you do that.
What is the easiest way to go into my listings and put them in my new categories? I think you could do that as a bulk edit, I suppose.
If you have a store.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see any reason why not. You could try that. That's probably the simplest, quickest way. Bulk edit, is great for anything like that. If you want to change policies on a bunch of listings, or change shipping terms, or anything that you want to do a bulk, it's pretty good. Evolos says over 2% a return rate will start to damage your eBay account. Yeah, I don't know about that, Evolos. I have a higher rate than that, and I've never seen any drop to mine.
Our rate last year was what, 3.5?
Yeah.
3.75?
Yeah. I mean, and maybe it did, and I just didn't know it. and I'm not sure what that damage will look like.
Oh, wait, that wasn't our return. Sorry, that was our defect rate. Our returns weren't that high, I don't think. Were they?
Yeah, they were.
Oh.
Those returns. But anyway, all right. Well, listen, I think we are at the top of the hour.
This has been so much fun.
I know. What a good show. 101 people watching. That's awesome.
That was pretty cool.
All right, guys. Well, listen, I think that's going to do it for today's show. We're right at about the hour. Thank you guys for joining us on a Monday. We'll be back this week. I don't think we're going to have a Connect show this week, but we'll be back with at least one other show this week and an update. And, we really appreciate you guys coming out and joining us today. So hope you had fun. Hope you learned something.
Yeah, we are going to we are working on a couple of content pre-recorded kind of videos.
Right.
So be on the lookout for those. And we'll definitely be back next Monday at 2 because we've got some Uber specific sourcing trips that we have planned this week.
Yes. We're going to be sourcing at least twice this week, and that'll be fun. And we'll be joining some other people we haven't sourced with before. So that'll be cool too.
And we're working on a get-together, a sort of Southeast regional thing.
Oh, she's giving that.
Well, I'm only
gonna
tease with that and leave it at that for now because I'm not sure what it's going to look like. But we're going to talk more about that amongst ourselves on Thursday, just to do something here local in particular.
Right.
So there you go.
All right, guys. Well, leave a comment or question down below if you have one. We'll try to get to it. And if not, maybe somebody else can answer. There's a lot of people in this community now. So
yes.
It's not just me or Karen answering everything for sure.
This has been fun. Today was a good day.
Get out there and throw some elbows. She hits me every day with an elbow, just randomly. But anyway, thanks again for joining, guys. Hit the subscribe button after this video post, and
you'll get little reminders. And don't forget that little alarm bell looking thing. It'll tell you, hey, Prof Math.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, you got anything else?
No, other than thanks, guys. This was great. Wonderful way to start the day. I hope you kill it in your month end over the next couple of days.
February's coming. Get ready. Own it.
February.
It's yours. I just sound like Brad Pitt and Troy there for a moment.
You think?
Do I look like Brad Pitt?
This is Karen. And who are you?
Prof. Sales
this is Karen and Brad Pitt saying, good sales to you.